So we have seen type A regression. Next is type B evaluation of measurement uncertainty. So what is type B? Using any means other than statistical method. I think we have already mentioned. Written by means other than a type A evaluation of measurement uncertainty. Okay, so that we have seen. So do we need type B? Why can't we do only type A? Okay, so if all influence quantities, so we have defined what is an influence quantity, anything which affects the measurement but is not the measurement. If they can be varied to the fullest possible extent, so you can adjust it deliberately, so then it will become a designed experiment. A designed experiment, we set all the factors to the desired level. So after uncertainty, we will learn design of experiments. So there we'll discuss this in more detail, what is a designed experiment. So what is the maximum possible variation in each variable or in each factor? We should be able to deliberately set it, then the statistical methods of evaluation is good enough. But unfortunately, this is very difficult. For example, temperature. So you don't know how much temperature may vary. You assume it is within plus minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. But how do you deliberately make it 0.5 plus and 0.5 minus and see how it affects the uncertainty is little difficult. So statistical methods require, if you want to fully adjust all the variables, it requires a lot of time and also resources. You may have to have facilities to say temperature, you want to adjust by a certain amount, etc. So instead we can use a mathematical model which relates the variables. So this is purely experimental approach. Pure statistical approach is experimental. Instead, why can't we use a mathematical model which relates the input quantities to the measurement? So in type B evaluation, we use a mathematical model, and to understand how the error or the uncertainty propagates, we use what is called the law of propagation of uncertainty. So we make use of available information. So any available information we may make use of, like previous measurement data. So you already have experience with the measuring instrument. So it is in a lab and you have been taking measurements with that instrument for so many years. So you know how much is the variability which may come. So every time you don't have to take a large number of readings. So you can use that previous information, how much is the expected standard deviation, and that you can use in a new measurement. So that is the idea. Previous measurement data can be utilized. Knowledge of materials and instruments. So how does temperature affect dimension? So we know thermal expansion coefficient, if you know that, of that material. So if our information about the material we can utilize to compute the dimensional change because of temperature. Then manufacturer specifications. So the instrument uncertainty. So any measurement, the instrument, its calibration uncertainty will be one source of uncertainty that we can take from manufacturer specifications. So if it is not calibrated, it's a new instrument, we take it from the manufacturer. Once it is calibrated, we can use the calibration uncertainty as given by the calibration certificate. Then data provided in calibration and other certificates. So this is, if manufacturer specifications, instead of that, we can use this also. Then uncertainty is assigned to reference data taken from handbooks. So you take the density of, say, mercury as 13,600 kilogram per meter cube. So that is at a particular temperature. So you take that from a book, and how much is the variability? Because depending on the impurities in the mercury, etc., there could be variation. So all that we can compute based on this data given in handbooks. So this is a sample of what are the different sources or information which we can use to compute measurement uncertainty, a type B measurement uncertainty. So type B requires skill. So this is not very easy. Type A is very simple. So if you have repeated readings, find out x bar and s, x bar plus or minus t into s by root 10. Or for large sample, simply, okay, 1.96 or depending on the confidence interval, level of confidence, you can choose the factor. But type B is not so simple. That requires skill. So that is why we need some time to understand this. Can be as reliable as type A. Just because you are not doing several readings, does it mean that it is bad? No. It can be as reliable as type A, because type A is what you actually observe. So it is the gold standard. But it can be as reliable as type A, especially where only a small number of independent observations are available. If you are taking from small sample, then type A is not very good. So then type B is better. That only you should know how to utilize all the sources of information and determine the resultant measurement uncertainty. Okay, actually the general procedure is it coming somewhere? So how do we, okay, I'll just, okay, there is one interesting resource also I'll introduce. So this is from the site isobudgets.com. So Rick Hogan, he has given 7 steps to calculate measurement uncertainty. Okay. So first step is specify the process and equation. Actually, I have a dispute with him. So equation comes afterwards. So first step is, in my opinion, it is identify and characterize the uncertainty sources. So that's why we have discussed uncertainty sources in dimension measurement, temperature measurement, etc. in the 2 classes before. Okay, so that the first step is this, to identify the sources of uncertainty, and characterize means what is the distribution, we identify that. Then we specify the equation, how these sources are connected to the measurand. So that is the next step. So after sources only, the equation comes. Then quantify the magnitude of uncertainty components. So when you characterize the uncertainty sources, we do that. Each source, how much is the uncertainty, we quantify. Then we convert uncertainty components to standard deviation equivalence. So uncertainty is converted to standard deviation. Then we calculate combined standard uncertainty, then expanded uncertainty, and then evaluate uncertainty for appropriateness. Is it okay, etc. So you can also download this from the book. So he has given detailed explanation. So okay, so a lot of people are making uncertainty evaluation a business also. So because it's not so simple, that is the difficulty. So that is the criticism about this method also. But I don't think there is a shortcut. If you want to consider all sorts of uncertainty, you have to learn the basic statistics. Okay, so please see this site, isobudgets.com. I think from my website also I have given a link. So the general procedure is, we are going to the step 4, convert uncertainty components to standard deviation equivalence. Okay, so that is why this is coming. So we have to identify the sources, then each source, what is the information available. Using that, we have to determine the standard uncertainty of that source. Okay, so estimate available as a multiple. So in the handbook, so how you use the information in the handbooks, it may be given as a multiple. So if it is given directly as a standard deviation, this step is not required. You can directly use the standard uncertainty. But if the sources are given in a different fashion, so taken from a manufacturer's specification, calibration certificate, handbook, or other source. So especially in the earlier days when this ISO standard had not yet become well known, so different information used to be presented in very different methods. So then we had to make some adjustments to make it follow the method what we are, or put it in the form that we need. So estimate available as a multiple taken from a manufacturer's specification, calibration certificate, handbook, or other source. So if this is the information available, so how do we determine the standard uncertainty of that source? So it is given as a multiple. So quoted uncertainty is a multiple of the standard deviation. Then standard uncertainty is the quoted value divided by the multiplier. So very simple. This is nothing. There is no need to give such a big elaborate step. But anyway, this is as given in the GUM, Guide to Expression of Uncertainty Measurement. I hope you have downloaded or seen the online version. Okay, so this is, so standard uncertainty is simply whatever the value is given, you divide by the multiplier. So what is the multiplier? That you have to see what percentage confidence is given, degrees of freedom, etc. And then we can determine the standard uncertainty of that source. So now let us see an example. A calibration certificate states that the mass of a stainless steel mass standard of nominal value 1 kilogram is 1000.000325 gram, and that the uncertainty of this value is 240 microgram at the 3 standard deviation level. So the calibration certificate states that the uncertainty of this mass is 240 microgram, that is 0.00024 gram at the 3 standard deviation level. So this uncertainty is at the 3 standard deviation level. So what will be 1 standard deviation? 1/3 of that, and that is the standard uncertainty. So what is the standard uncertainty? The mass standard 240 by 3 microgram, that is 80 microgram. So usually the calibration certificate statements will be in such elaborate wordings. I have given an example of a calibration certificate of, I think, Fluke in the EduServer site. So please see the sample calibration certificate. So especially if the data is, nowadays of course they follow the ISO recommendations, they give the standard uncertainty directly. But if not, then you may have to do some manipulation like this. Okay, so this is the example. If it is told that the uncertainty of 240 microgram is based on 3 standard deviations. Okay, this used to be the standard followed by books like Beckwith and, no, not Beckwith, but Dublin. They used to follow 3 sigma earlier. So that is standard uncertainty of this mass is 80 microgram. Okay, so very simple. Just only you have to read through these big statements and identify the proper variables. What is it? What is standard deviation? What is the level, etc. You have to go through the calibration certificate and identify that. That is more difficult. But otherwise, computation is very simple. Next, estimate available as an interval. So uncertainty is, so it's mentioned that it is a 90%, 95% or 99% level of confidence. So unless otherwise indicated, assume a normal distribution. If it is mentioned that it is some other distribution, you have to make use of that. But if nothing is mentioned, you are free to assume normal distribution. Okay? So what is normal distribution? I think we have already discussed. It is unimodal. There is a single peak which is in the middle, and both sides are approximately equal. Should not have a long tail compared to the other side. Okay, and shape is like a bell. Okay, top is small, the tails are long. So that is a normal distribution. So it is given that this uncertainty is a 90% uncertainty interval is given. Then simply divide by the appropriate factor. So we know that, so this is actually a coverage interval. So the coverage interval divided by that factor will give standard uncertainty. So recover the standard uncertainty by dividing the quoted uncertainty by the appropriate factor, which may be 1.64, 1.96 or 2.58. So whatever is given, divide that by the appropriate factor, you get the standard uncertainty. For example, a calibration certificate states that the resistance of a standard resistor of nominal value 10 ohms is 10.000742 ohm plus or minus 129 micro ohm at 23 degrees Celsius, and that the quoted uncertainty of 129 micro ohm. So this is given, 129 micro ohm is the uncertainty is given. Now what is this? This defines an interval having a level of confidence of 99%. Okay, so this is a coverage interval value based on 99% confidence. So what is the standard uncertainty, which is standard deviation is coverage interval. So this is 129 micro ohm is the expanded uncertainty, plus or minus 129 micro ohm is the coverage interval. So expanded uncertainty divided by the coverage factor will give standard uncertainty. So for 99%, the factor is, for normal distribution, it is 2.58. So 129 by 2.58 is 50 micron. All these examples are given in gum. So I have taken the same examples. So sometimes the gum itself, there is some, the example itself is little confusing. So we'll see an example later. Okay. So that is, if it is, so first it was given as how many, 3 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation, like that. Second, it is given as a 90% interval, 95% interval, 99% interval, like that. Next, so nothing is given. So but upper and lower bounds are available. So maximum or minimum is given. So measurement lies within the interval minus a to plus a with probability 1. So this is minimum and maximum. So sometimes, okay, it is given like that. So that is, we are sure the probability it lies within the interval is 1, 100% sure. Probability outside is 0. So this is, okay, it is just an assumption. So no specific knowledge about distribution within the interval. How it is distributed within this plus or minus a is not given. So it can be even a bimodal distribution, but we assume it is at least unimodal, or at least the worst can happen is a flat distribution. It cannot be thicker at the tails than at the middle. In that case, this is not valid. So we assume a uniform distribution. Okay, I think we have already learned what is a uniform distribution. So that is horizontal. The probability distribution function is horizontal. Then if it is uniform distribution between minus a to plus a, what will be the standard uncertainty? I think you have learned it the 3rd semester. So standard deviation of the uniform distribution is, if the interval is from minus a to plus a, so you have to remember that if it is minus a to plus a, if it is 0 to a, it is different. Can be uniformly distributed between 0 to a, then it is different. But if it is from minus a to plus a, then standard uncertainty will be a by root 3. So standard uncertainty is always given by symbol small u, so that is a by root 3. Okay, so we have seen where do we get uniform distribution. So for example, digital output, then many times the uncertainty, the least count is assumed uniform, etc. Those are common. So many times, because it's the worst distribution without thickening of the tails. So we follow this, or we assume this many times. Okay, so now next we see an example. A handbook gives the value of the coefficient of linear thermal expansion of pure copper today so many calls. Huh? A handbook gives the value of the coefficient of linear thermal expansion of pure copper at 20 degrees Celsius as 16.52 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius, and simply states that the error in this value should not exceed 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius. Many times the old handbooks, so handbooks many times they are not revised. For example, we have machineries handbook or material property handbooks and all. So they may give like this. And simply states the error in this value should not exceed this much. So again, error, this is also incorrect as per the latest standards. But if you have information only like this, then you have to make use of this. We can't say that we don't know. So that's why uncertainty estimation requires skill. We have to make reasonable assumptions. And okay, what will be the consequence if we make incorrect assumptions? We have to keep in mind and accordingly take decisions. So that's why it is a little difficult exercise. So here, if it is given like this, it will not exceed this quantity, then what is the standard uncertainty of the thermal expansion coefficient? So that is the question. So it is given that it will not exceed this. So so this is again a confusing statement, and actually I have taken the example from gum itself. Okay, does not exceed 0.4 means, so how do you interpret this? Is a big problem. So you have to be very careful. So gum has assumed that it cannot exceed means it is not only in the positive side, it can also be on the negative side. Because we have to remember that this is as per the old definition of error. So the olden days error could be plus, minus, anything. So only in the current definition, so we have distinguished error and uncertainty. So here actually they are talking about uncertainty. So uncertainty does not exceed means then it can be plus or minus also. So that means, so we have to assume that the coefficient of linear thermal expansion will be between plus or minus 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius. Okay, then standard uncertainty will be, so A will be equal to 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 6. So standard uncertainty will be A by root 3 is this be divided by root 3. So standard uncertainty of the thermal expansion coefficient alpha at 20 degrees Celsius is equal to 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 6 by root 3 is equal to 0.23094 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius. Okay, so we have seen different cases of how to evaluate how to determine the standard uncertainty from given information. So the steps in measurement uncertainty, so we have to first determine all the sources of uncertainty. Then each source of uncertainty, what is the standard uncertainty has to be found. So for that step, we use all these methods. Then triangular distribution. So uniform distribution is for a digital output. It is a single digital output is, for example, a stopwatch. So, but usually stopwatch, okay, if it is you are starting from 0 and then taking reading, it is uniformly distributed. But suppose you are noting the initial time and final time, then both readings will be uniformly distributed. Then the difference in times, what distribution it will be? That will be triangular distribution. So measurement lies within the interval -1 to 1, probability 1, and probability outside is 0. And so this information is given. Measurement has a triangular distribution. So it is triangularly distributed between -a to +a. So what is the peak value is unimportant. Okay, so standard uncertainty will be, what is the standard deviation of the triangular distribution? So that also you have studied in your third semester. So if it is -a to +a, standard uncertainty will be a by root 6. So uniform a by root 3, triangular a by root 6. So uncertainty is reduced. And normal means a by, so 95% interval means a by 2. Okay. So uniform, so that means the largest standard uncertainty will happen when it is uniform distribution. So that is why that is the worst distribution, as long as the tails are not thicker than the middle. Okay. Otherwise, then of course even CLT and all will not be valid, and then we have to use special methods. So usually in most cases these distributions are good enough. Okay. So the dimension of an object is known to be triangularly distributed between 12.52 and 12.57 mm. Okay, so the limits are given. Determine the standard uncertainty. So average sum, okay, the average plus A is equal to 12.57, minus A is 12.52. So what will be A? So this distance divided by 2. So 0.05 by 2, 0.025 is A. So this means it is triangularly distributed between plus or minus 0.025 mm. So then standard uncertainty is A by root 6. So A is this. Okay, A is 0.025. That divided by root 6 is 0.01026 mm. Okay. And then other distributions, okay, we will not take in this course because that is more on the statistician's purview. But any distribution, what we need is, we need only to determine the standard uncertainty. Not very difficult, but it is, okay, we'll, due to lack of time, we may not be going more depth into other distributions. Okay, because most of the practical situations are covered by normal and uniform. They are the most common distributions. Even triangular sometimes. So others are very rare. So we'll skip that. Okay, so any question on this? Type B evaluation of uncertainty. So okay, so that now we come to, we have completed type B. So now we come to combined standard uncertainty. So as we said, we determine the standard uncertainty of each source of uncertainty, and then use the law of propagation of uncertainty to determine how each source of uncertainty, it will affect the standard uncertainty of the measurement, and the estimate the, okay, the estimated standard uncertainty of the measurement is the combined standard uncertainty. Okay, we have already seen this definition earlier. Just to refresh it, oh sorry. Okay, so combined standard measurement uncertainty is, that is the standard measurement uncertainty that is obtained using the individual standard measurement uncertainties associated with the input quantities. So that's why the first step is to identify the input quantities, then what are their uncertainties, and then we use a measurement model to determine the standard uncertainty of the measurement. So that standard uncertainty of the measurement is the combined standard measurement uncertainty. Okay, next, uncertainty of a result. Okay, there are several cases. So the result is Y. The input quantities are x1, x2, etc. Together we can denote it as a vector capital X. Okay, so in case of a single variable x, there is no vector, it is just x. So we'll see cases one by one. So first we learn y is a function of a single variable x. Then we learn y is a function of two independent variables x1, x2. Then we learn y is a function of several independent variables n. So we'll see a problem with 4 variables. Then come to y is a function of several independent variables. Several variables xi, some of which are not independent. So here all were independent. So that means one variable does not affect the other at all. But then if it affects, how? That is case 3. Okay, so one by one we'll go to increasing complexities. So please study this chapter the earlier portions very accuracy and precision. So trueness is not mentioned here. So this is not in accordance with GUM. So some of the explanations are not as per the GUM. So here errors they are discussing here, systematic and random is there, which we have also done. But the definitions are different. Least count error, absolute error, combination of errors. So you will have to forget what you have learned here and learn as per the GUM. So only problem is even in industry, all industries, they are not aware of this latest GUM and all. And especially interviews, you have to be careful. Sometimes the interviewer may be a person who has not studied metrology. He may have studied sometime when he was at college. So he may expect the answer what he had learned. So you have to be very careful if he is somebody, and if you tell him he is wrong, they are not likely to take you. So you have to be very careful. So you have to say that as per the latest standard, accuracy is something different, not. So instead of, they expect the definition of trueness instead of accuracy. Okay, and then how will you determine the error of a sum or difference? Error of a product or coefficient. So relative error. So now all this terminology is incorrect. And this method, of course, you have already learned. Significant figures, significant digits. So once again, we will follow. GUM has a recommendation. How many digits should be there, which is different from this. Okay, so there are some. So only after determining the uncertainty, we can determine how many digits should be required in the measurement result. Okay, so you may have to undo what you have learned earlier. So many times I find you will write the answer as given here.